Greenbelt. That would align with the rest of the logic of the inner boundaries following the built environment. And it would also safeguard those buffer areas for the future. The areas around ST27 are currently agricultural. They're not just agricultural, but they're best and most valued land. So they are an agricultural area which is food producing. It's also an important ecological area, and in fact, much of the southern boundary of Campus East was landscape for conservation and wildlife when it was developed. Even sports fields would have a huge impact on the ecology of the area, and any suggestion of floodlighting certainly would utterly change it. Those areas around SD27, like Low Lane, Green Lane, ancient village roadways, they're important and highly valued amenities for the people of Heslington and also for the staff and students of the University of York. When we're considering the needs of the University of York, we should also be considering the need they have for Heslington Village. It's regarded with great affection by the staff and students, and yet we seem, through the university's ambitions, to be sleepwalking into the end of that village and into the end particularly of its agricultural hinterland, which is what makes it a special rural village. The fact that there are tractors towing carts full of carrots through the village is what makes it special. If you lose the fields, you lose the carrots, you lose the tractors, you lose the agricultural heritage of that area. It is noticeable that in none of the submissions, none of the hearing statements, is there any reference to the local community, to the residents of Badger Hill or Heslington Village. And to be honest, if I was having to do something to my house, an extension, a new window or something, the first thing I would do is talk to my neighbours. I would engage with them. I would find out what is the most important thing to them and what is less important, or what they could live with. We would reach a compromise. Now, it's great that CYC and the University of York have reached the Statement of Common Ground, but none of the residents have been involved in this. So we would like to see the University of York have a far greater consideration for what was agreed in the past, the 2007 Secretary of State Agreement about Campus East. And at that time, Mrs. O'Neill's firm itself said the application for Campus East is not urban sprawl because the application site is within the defensible boundaries of Field Lane and Low Lane. So that's what was the case in 2007, and we submit it is still the case now. And the inspector's report goes on, there would be a buffer zone from Heslington Village, some 250 metres wide before any built development. That is the buffer zone which we think should now be designated within the Greenbelt area. This would link directly to the open space extending northward between Badger Hill and Wimble Lane. And the proposed lake and wetland area would provide a positive limit to the built development to the south of the site. We would like that positive limit to be kept and preserved. If we can override the Secretary of State's ruling in 2007, what's to stop any decisions out of these hearings being overridden in 5 or 10 years' time? What is the point of making any decisions and agreements? I've probably said enough.
I think I'll hear Councillor Waters and then take a break. So, Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Inspector. You'll be pleased to know I'm going to be very brief and just stick to the Greenbelt issues that were raised by Mr Langler. I have a great long list of responses to what we heard earlier from the university, but I'll leave them until after the break. In terms of what Mr Langler said, I think there's a very important point that needs to be reiterated so it isn't lost, and that was his comments in relation to ST4, which I think you'll recall similar comments were made at that session. It just seems illogical for that piece of land to be designated for housing when it's right next to the university and could be developed without a lot of the certainly Greenbelt visual issues that have been highlighted with ST27. And I'd just like to make one other point in relation to what Mr Langler said about ST7 and how it's viewed from off the ring road. It's just disappointing that the same organisation hasn't appeared to make the same comments as regards ST7, which again we heard a few weeks ago. So that's all I've got to say now, so presumably we'll move to a break a bit quicker.
Mr Langler, will you be staying with us after the break?
I will, yes.
That's fine, because there's one other thing I wanted to ask you about.
Right,
If you're staying with us, I won't deal with it now, I'll deal with it then. I think Mr Tucker would like to...
Yeah, just on process, I think Lucy Markham is here now, so we have our heritage consultant ready to be able to make comments in due course. I'm not asking you to defer your break and your morning coffee. I'm just letting you know that the trains have worked this morning, thankfully.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't handle a deferral of my morning coffee. So I make it now 10:53. I adjourn the hearing to resume at 11:15. Thank you.
Thank you, sirs.